James Franklin and the Penn State Nittany Lions actually think they're good enough to win a championship this year. Do you? Locked On Big Ten starts right now.
You are Locked On Big Ten, your daily podcast on the Big Ten Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Big Ten. I'm Craig Sheeman. Thank you again for making us your first listen each and every day. We really appreciate it. Of course, we are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. And we're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Penn State's going for it all. They think they're good enough, and they just might be. Plus, training camp news, changes coming to Bloomington, and some more news out of Buckeyes camp regarding the quarterback situation. Plus, our Big Ten power rankings with a twist. You'll want to hang around to the end for that later on today. All right, the Penn State Nittany Lions. They had a great year last year, but as I've said on this podcast numerous times, nobody noticed. Great year last year, nobody noticed. What do I mean by that? Look, this team finished ranked 7th in the country last year, but they had 2 losses. And they were pretty sizable losses, but they were to Michigan and to Ohio State. That's it. They ran the table to beat everybody else. We've talked about that ad nauseum all summer long. They're in the same division of the same conference, all right? The Michigan and Ohio State take up a lot of oxygen when it comes to media coverage. And that's what I mean by Penn State finished 7th and nobody noticed. Of course, Ohio State and Michigan, they make it to the playoffs. It's just they just got buried. Penn State got buried in all the news and all the excitement. There's a lot of talent just in that division of the Big Ten, and it doesn't look like it's going to let up anytime soon. But we look to this year, again, Michigan and Penn State taking up all the oxygen in the media coverage, but the Penn State Nittany Lions are right there on their heels. And the talent keeps flowing through Happy Valley. They've had 6 straight years where they've had at least 5 players drafted in the NFL, and they're loaded again this year. In fact, they may have more talent this year, as a matter of fact. They're deeper than they've ever been as well. It might be James Franklin's best and deepest team ever, frankly. So let's break it down a little bit. I've been paying attention to them in their training camp. They all have their sights on winning the East, winning the Big Ten, winning the college football playoff, and winning a national championship. They think they can do it. They are ready to do it. But you know what? I also sense cautious optimism with them. Yes, they think they can do it, but I don't think they're letting the goals and the steps, the baby steps ahead, get in the way. They know they can't slip up. They know they have to beat Michigan. They know they have to beat Ohio State. They know have to beat everybody else on their schedule as well. And I don't think they're losing sight of that at all. I commend them on that. They look like a really focused football team for sure. So let's take a look at them a little bit here. Of course, James Franklin has done a wonderful job. Can you believe it? It's season 10. He's got 9 seasons under his belt already. 78-36 in those 9 years at Penn State. He's got 11 all Big Ten players returning, so the talent is coming back. And then they open up the season with a regional rival in West Virginia. And he was asked about this in the context of expansion, and these kind of games are going to go away. He says it's sad. The regional traditional games that a lot of teams get to play, it's going to go by the wayside. But not this year. They open up with West Virginia. West Virginia comes in. They'll bring a lot of fans because you can drive it, and it should be a fun first game of the season to get this season going. Franklin is very proud of where his program is after 9 years, while also saying, "Look, we got a little bit more work to do to get where we want to go." But he talked a lot about his defense. In fact, we're going to get into their defense in just a little bit, but he said, look, no easy yards, nothing. They got Manny Diaz, the former Miami coach, 2nd year as a defensive coordinator here. They're going to play a lot of in-your-face press coverage. They're not giving up an inch. No easy yards is the motto for this team. So let's take a look at the Penn State defense and see where we are. As I mentioned, Manny Diaz in his 2nd year there, and he loves the depth on this defense at all 3 levels, the line, the linebackers, the secondary. even though they lost some talent last year from all three levels. But again, they're deep. They keep reloading. This program is established. And they came out on day one last week at training camp with the pads on and tackling. You only get so many days you can tackle. They got after it, and they want to make sure their fundamentals are sound. One thing I liked about what Manny Diaz said, he said, look, we got to learn our lessons early. We don't want to take a few games, get in a roll, and then be in midseason form in midseason. We want to be in midseason form at the beginning of the season. And I like that mentality. He says, we got to be ready like we've been doing this all season long in September, not by the time we get to October. And of course, as you Penn State fans know, October is when you play Ohio State. You don't have Michigan until November, but you don't want to be ready to roll. In fact, the Ohio State game is October 21st. Michigan is the first or second week in November off the top of my head. They are deep at all three levels. A lot of guys to pay a lot of attention to. Chop Robinson, a defensive end. I think he could be a candidate for Defensive Player of the Year. The linebackers are strong, lots of them. I heard some interviews with Curtis Jacobs, one of the linebackers. He said, look, everybody here, we all trust each other. We all trust our teammates out there. And our approach every day is just to dominate. He said he has spent a lot of time studying film. In fact, I really like this. He said, I've watched so much film here. It's really slowing the game down for me. I know what the offenses are doing before they do them. And here's where he compared it. He said, it's like going into a test, but it's like cheating on a test. You know the questions before they're coming. That was the analogy he gave. I appreciate it. So you always know what the other team is going to do with your preparation. Another superstar, cornerback, Kalen King, another one among the best at his position in the country. He says he's working on just being fearless and fast and all over the place, really working on speed, footwork, technique. And then he talked about a drill that they do. A lot of teams do it, but they do it here at Penn State, where assistant coach will take tennis racket and tennis balls and just hit them straight up in the air, 100 feet into the air, and the players got to get underneath them in full football gear and catch them. It's not like baseball where you've got a big old glove to catch it, and it's not like a big football that you got to catch. It's a little tiny tennis ball is coming down on you. It's a hard drill. It takes a lot of hand-eye coordination. He says he hates it. But it seemed like it was a love-hate thing. But that's one of the things they do to try and get their hand-eye coordination better at Penn State. Now, let's take a look at the offense at Penn State. And I want you to pay attention. I don't want you to get lost in the numbers here. I'm going to throw a set of numbers at you, and I'm going to show you how much this offense improved from 2021 to 2022. It really took the next step and got to the next level. In 2021, this offense scored 25 points a game. It's okay. Last year, 36 points a game. And in fact, the last 7 games of the year, they averaged 39 points a game. They have really skyrocketed with their production. Yards per game in 2021, 376. The next year, 433. Huge jump in production. Yards per play in 2021. 5.3 yards per play. The following year, last year, 6.2 yards per play. Again, trending upward. And then 2 years ago, the running game was a little bit anemic, 3.2 yards per carry. Last year jumped to an astonishing 4.8 yards per carry. If you want to extrapolate that for the whole game, they did 108 yards rushing per game in 2021. 81 more yards in 2022, 189 yards on the ground per game last year. And a lot of that has to do with their dynamic duo in the backfield. They got a couple of great running backs, Nick Singleton and Katron Allen. And they were both freshmen last year. They set all sorts of freshman records with the 1-2 punch. Singleton set a Penn State freshman record with 12 touchdowns scored. He has a nose for the goal line. He says the game is slowing down, becoming easier for him. Says the offensive line is great. Everybody's putting in the extra work, and they're really enjoying getting ready for this season. They're doing all this and all these improvements under offensive coordinator Mike Yurcich. He said, our ID is our running game. We're going to smash mouth, right, and run the ball right up the gut. And he's got 4 starters returning on the offensive line, so that's great. That's a luxury for him. The new part to this offense is the quarterback and Drew Aller. Very talented young kid, but, he hasn't been the starter of the Penn. Now is his chance, and he's going to stay. You'll even see him on a few short lists for Heisman odds, maybe top 10, top 15. If he has any kind of good year, he'll move up. But there are people that are expecting a lot of big things out of Drew Aller. He says he's getting comfortable with the lingo. And according to Yursich, he's learned the run game and then pass protection calls. Those are the first two elements of the install of the Penn State offense. You get that down. Those are the building blocks of the install, and you can build upon that. Where he says they need some help, and if there is a question mark on this entire Penn State team, which is a pretty complete team, it might be at wide receiver. You've got this year Keandre Lambert-Smith, who'll be the number one receiver. He's really fast. He's really crisp on his running routes. Then you got Harrison Wallace the third. They call him Trey Wallace. A lot of speed and strength built into the wide receiver spot. But and we talked about this guy I'm about to tell you about earlier in the summer, but now that we're closer to the summer, this is worth talking about. They did hit the transfer portal for a little bit of help. They got Dante Cephas from Kent State. He was first team All-MAC 2 years ago. And last year, he missed some games because of an injury. His numbers weren't as great. But 2 years ago in his prime, 82 catches, 1,240 yards, and 13 touchdowns. If he can bottle any of that up and take it to the next level in the Big Ten at Penn State, he could be a very, very special player. And I think some big things are expected out of him at wide receiver. As far as Drew Aller, I heard him talk a little bit. And, of course, he takes over for four-year starter Sean Clifford. There's always been the stability at quarterback under James Franklin. When he gets a quarterback, he lets, they're starting for many, many years. It's kind of like the Green Bay Packers version in college football. Just, you don't have to worry about who your quarterback is there for a long time. He says he's had 2 springs and 2 falls, spring football and fall football now, 4 sessions total to go through this this offensive install. So he says he's getting very comfortable with it. And the one thing that he talked about that he learned under Clifford when he was there at quarterback, he says, look, man, you never get too high. You never get too low. You're the quarterback. Just keep it even keeled no matter what. If bad things are happening, you're still here. If good things are happening, you're still here. You don't fluctuate too much and just keep it going forward. And that's what he took away from playing under Clifford. I would love your comments. Are you buying the hype out there at Penn State? Can they compete? Can they win the Big Ten? Can they hurdle Michigan and Ohio State? I'd like to hear from you. Always take your comments on Twitter at Talk Big Ten and also the comments here on YouTube. Still more to come. We are going to catch up with the Buckeyes camp. Still no quarterback. A little deeper exploration into why there hasn't been a starting quarterback name there. Some changes in Bloomington we'll tell you about, and some big news at Iowa we will share with you. So we'll take care of all of that as we continue right here on Locked On Big Ten. I want to tell you about Nutrafol. Did you know that 80% of men will experience hair thinning in their lifetime? And look, it's normal, but it doesn't have to be your fate. You can get ahead of thinning with Nutrafol. Nutrafol is the #1 dermatologist recommended hair growth supplement, clinically shown to improve your hair growth, visible thickness, and visible scalp coverage. Here's some right here. Put it on screen. You can check it out. Yeah. Also, you can go to Nutrafol.com/men and take their hair health wellness quiz, identify causes of your thinning hair, and Nutrafol will give you a personalized plan for better hair health through whole body wellness. Nutrafol supports healthy hair growth from within by targeting root causes of thinning. Lots of things can cause this, like stress in your life, hormones, environment, nutrition, lifestyle, metabolism, and take care of this through whole body health. And it works. Look, in a clinical study, 84% of men showed improvement in their hair after 6 months taking Nutrafol men's hair growth supplements. So what do you have to do? Take the first step to visibly thicker, healthier hair. And for a limited time, Nutrafol is offering our listeners here at Locked On $10 off your first month subscription and free shipping when you go to Nutrafol.com/men and enter the promo code LOCKEDONCollege. Find out why over 4,000 healthcare professionals recommend Nutrafol for healthier hair. And Nutrafol.com/men is spelled Nutrafol.com/men, and enter the promo code Locked On College. It's as simple as that. That's Nutrafol.com/men, promo code Locked On College. Okay. Some news out of the Ohio State Buckeye camp and Coach Ryan Day. He said at Big Ten training camps, he said, look, we're going to have a quarterback challenge. We're going to have a battle. It's not going to be Kyle McCord's job. Some people maybe rolled their eyes a little bit. Maybe it was me too. I thought, okay, this is Kyle McCord's job. Not the case. Not the case. Coach knew what he's talking about. In fact, he said that he wishes somebody had really emerged by now. He kind of wants to get to the point where he's naming a starting quarterback so they can base all their practices on that, get ready for that first game against Indiana. But he hasn't seen enough consistency from either Kyle McCord or Devin Brown to name a starter yet. He says, look, they're competitive. They're out there doing their thing. He said, look, it's not about making extraordinary plays. It's about making the routine plays and taking care of the football. He said you would like to have a significant gap between QB1 and QB2 at this point, but it really hasn't manifested itself at this point. So he thinks the team will have to decide this week whether the quarterback competition will be decided by the end of the week or it's going to carry into the Indiana game. That means both guys are going to be playing, which I think they were going to anyway to some extent. I thought maybe 3 quarters for one and another quarter for, but maybe it's going to be a lot more balanced. And maybe they're going to be using the Indiana game on September 2nd to try and figure out who the quarterback is going to be. He also talked about San Diego State transfer left tackle Jimmy Simmons. He says he's coming along, but he's not ready to name him a starter just yet, making the guys earn it right up to the last minute. And you Buckeye fans, you all know Ezekiel Elliott. He's been with the Cowboys all these years. He got cut. He just signed with the New England Patriots. He announced he's going to go back to his old Ohio State Buckeye number 15 on the jersey. Signed a $3 million base salary contract, another $1 million signing bonus, and the whole contract could be worth up to $6 million playing for Bill Belichick and the Patriots. Also, some news out of Bloomington, Indiana. IU football's 63-year-old Memorial Stadium may be getting a facelift, according to athletic director Scott Dolan. He said it's not going to be a new structure, not going to tear anything down. They're not going to have to move for a year and build a stadium, nothing like that. Just kind of like a multi-million-dollar facelift like they did at Simon Scott Assembly Hall for the basketball team recently. So, Indiana's football stadium looks a lot nicer now than when I went there years ago as a student. And recently they've closed both the north and the south end zone with structures. They're beautiful facilities, but they're mostly for players and then boosters and all that. So Dolan has partnered with a group called Nations Group. It's a sport planning and advisory group that will survey the needs of the fans actually at the games, see what they want, see what they're looking for, put together a plan, capital campaign, raise the money, and make the changes. There's no deadline. There's no date set yet. This is the very beginning exploratory phase of all this. But Dolan says the stadium needs to be modernized. I think it's great. I think it's absolutely awesome. And speaking of awesome, the Iowa women's basketball team, they're sold out. Every home game at Carver Hawkeye Arena is sold out already. The football team hasn't sold out yet, but the women's basketball team has. The men, I don't know about the men's team, but this is the first time in school history that the women's team has sold out all the games at Carver Hawkeye Arena. Prior to this, just to give you a little comparison, in the entire history of the women's team, they've only sold out 3 single games in their entire history there at Carver Hawkeye Arena. So now they've sold out the whole season. Everybody's all excited. They were one of the most amazing teams last year to watch. If you were on that ride, that was a lot of fun. They won 31 games. Of course, Caitlin Clark is a superstar. She was awesome. 28 points, 8.6 assists, and 7 rebounds per game. And, of course, Iowa was the runner-up in the NCAA tournament last year. So a lot of people are excited about it. They open up the season on October 15th versus DePaul in a scrimmage. And certainly Iowa Hawkeye fans are really excited about it. Speaking of Iowa Hawkeye fans, how great are they? Are they annoying to other people? I'm going to explain that in a minute because we got a list of the most hated fans in college sports. But first, I want to say thanks for making Locked On Big Ten your first listen every day. Every day is our next show. We'll have the latest from all the training camps and your favorite teams. Plus, I want you to be on the lookout for our Locked On Big Ten roundtable I've been telling you about. Been hyping this up. This is a lot of fun. Got together with all the other Locked On hosts from the Big Ten. And it's the ultimate college football preview on Locked On Big Ten. So check that out. In the meantime, inviting you all to keep subscribing. You've been doing great. We're going to get up to 3,000 before the football season starts. That's just incredible since we just started this here, hosting this in June. In the meantime, all of you, please share. Find somebody that you like that has an interest in the Big Ten, an alum, a friend, a family member, and share our podcast with them. Just hit share, see if they catch on. Let's see if we can grow it that way as well. Share, follow, like, Locked On Big Ten. So coming up next, our weekly feature that I was alluding to, our Big Ten power rankings with a twist. We're going to find out who the most hated fan bases are and how many Big Ten teams are on that list as we continue on Locked On Big Ten. All right, here we go. Big Ten power rankings with a twist. The most hated fan bases in college athletics. And we're going to see how many are in the Big Ten. I'm going to put this on the screen, and you're going to check this out. If you're just listening on the audio, I will explain it. Here it is on video. At number 1, Big Ten represented. This is the most hated fan bases in 2023. This was according to @BlueBloods Bias. I took this list and I wanted to use it as a springboard here. So the Ohio State Buckeye fans are number 1 on this list. The two-time defending national champion Georgia Bulldogs at number 2, and the Michigan Wolverines are at number 3. And I had a thought. Of all the people that may have been polled for this, I wonder how many Michigan fans voted for Buckeye fans as the most hated and how many Buckeye fans voted for Michigan fans. I don't know. Just a thought. Are they arrogant? Are they cocky? They win a lot of games. Does that bother a lot of people? They both make the top 3. Future Big Ten team, the USC Trojans, coming in at number 4. And you know what? Maybe for this year we'll say, but once they're in the Big Ten next year, we'll be nicer to them. But I will tell you, I did live in Los Angeles for 10 years. And part of my 10 years there was during the Reggie Bush, Matt Leinart, Pete Carroll, USC Trojans that were just rolling over everybody. And the fan base came out. But here's what I learned about Los Angeles fans. This applies to USC. This definitely applies to UCLA. Dodgers, Lakers, Clippers, whatever. It's a front runner city. All right. It's a front runner city. If the team stinks, they won't come out. They won't. And so when I was there, the Trojans were like as big as the Beatles, but then they had some cooler times, and you saw games where UCLA didn't have any people at the Rose Bowl. So they a little fair weather fans. Maybe that makes them annoying. I don't know. I'm probably going to tick a lot of people off. Again, I welcome your comments if you want to come after me. At number 5, the Alabama Crimson Tide. Is it because everybody's tired of them winning every year? I don't know. Is it because their entire student section disappears at halftime and goes out in the parking lot to start drinking? I don't know. That bothers Nick Saban, by the way. He wants the fans to stay around in the second half. He said that before. At number 6, the Oklahoma Sooners. And number 7, the Texas Longhorns. Seems like those two are always together. Arch rivals. Maybe they tick each other off so much that they're together in the poll, and now they're both leaving the Big 12 and going to the SEC next year. The Notre Dame Fighting Irish coming at number 8. Are they annoying fans? There's a lot of people that don't like Notre Dame because they're on TV on NBC every week, and maybe some years they don't really deserve the national coverage. Other years they do. But, yeah, you either love or hate Notre Dame. I think that's on there. The Oregon Duck fans, among the most hated fan bases, I don't know. They seem kind of cool to me. I don't know. And then number 10, rounding out the list, the Florida Gator fans. I will tell you this. Back in 1995 or 96, I had a chance to broadcast a college football game at the Swamp against the Florida Gators. And I remember we were coming in on our buses with the team I was with and the police escort coming through campus and all this kind of stuff. And they were lined 4, 5, 6 deep for miles, all doing that little gator chop that they do. It was kind of cool. You could, maybe for some people it was intimidating. I thought it was all right. I don't know if I would put them on the list as annoying fans, but nevertheless, they're on here. There's your list, 1 through 10, part of our Big Ten top 10. Most hated fan bases. This is according to Blue Blood Bias on Twitter, not me. I just thought I'd use it to open up the discussion. All right. So let me know what you think. And I thought that was a pretty fun list as well. I want to thank everybody for making Locked On Big Ten your first listen every day. You everydayers, our next show, we'll have the latest from the Big Ten camps, and look out for our Locked On Big Ten Roundtable podcast with other Locked On podcasters soon. It is going to be here before you know it, and I'm very excited about it. Many ways to interact with me. Hit me up on Twitter at Talk Big Ten, and also be sure to remember to subscribe and follow this podcast right now on your favorite podcast app, and you get the latest episode of Locked On Big Ten as soon as it becomes available each and every morning. Now, I invite you to check out the Locked On Sports Today podcast for the latest on everything else going on in sports. In the meantime, have yourself a great day. Thanks again for checking us out. Talk to you next time. I'm Craig Sheeman on Locked On Big Ten.